Let's start off with the Angels, and I think Kenley Jansen would be a great fit for them. They do have Ben Joyce projected to be the closer as of right now, but with the Angels wanting to compete this year and having one of the worst bullpens in all of baseball last year, I don't think it would hurt for them to add a closer like Kenley Jansen, and he still has a home in the area. For the Astros, I got Alex Bregman. At one point, when the Astros traded for Isaac Paredes and signed Christian Walker, it looked like the door was pretty much closed on Bregman returning, but then out of nowhere, Jose Altuve said he would be open to playing left field, which sounds kind of bonkers, but it is what it is. This would allow Paredes to move over to second base, and Bregman can go back to third. It is a little weird, but I mean, hey, he's been there his whole career, and his bat fits very well at the ballpark. I say get it done and make him an Astro for life. For the A's, I have Kyle Gibson. The A's could use some more depth in the rotation, even after adding Luis Severino and Jeffrey Springs, and Gibson would be a solid veteran to add, and he would be a workhorse in the middle of the rotation for them. For the Blue Jays, I have Danny Colomé. The Blue Jays offseason wasn't looking great at one point, but they turned it around by signing Anthony Santander, Jeff Hoffman, Max Scherzer, on top of trading for Andrés Giménez. It's ended up being a pretty solid offseason for them. I still think, though, they could use a lefty in the bullpen, and Colomé has been very good when healthy in the last couple of years. On to the Braves, and I have Andrew Heaney. I could see them making a phone call for Dylan Cease or Michael King, maybe even Jordan Montgomery, but in case neither of those happen, I think Andrew Heaney would be a pretty good fit. Heaney's been a pretty dependable back end of the rotation starter for the Rangers the last couple of years, and his metrics always seem to outweigh the surface numbers. I can see the Braves wanting to tap into something there. For the Brewers, I have Yoan Moncada. The Brewers don't have an everyday option at third base at the moment, and with Yoan Moncada looking to get his career back on track, along with the fact with all the injuries he's had will make him a bit cheaper, which the Brewers do like, I think this could be a good pairing. On to the Cardinals, and why not Spencer Turnbull? The Cardinals aren't taking many big risks this offseason, and Turnbull did look pretty good this past year before he ran into some injuries. Now, he should be good for 2025, so I say the St. Louis Cardinals try to cash in on a buy low option. For the Cubs, I have Andrew Chafin. They recently brought in Ryan Presley to be their closer, but I still think they could use a lefty option at the back end of their bullpen, and Chafin has been very dependable in his career. I think this would be a good fit. On to the D-backs, and I think they should sign Justin Turner. Even though he's 40 years old at the end of his career, he's still pretty productive, and I think he would be a good fit for the D-backs. He could be their full-time designated hitter, while Pavin Smith could be the lefty bat off the bench, who could get some time at DH and in the outfield. For the Dodgers, I have Clayton Kershaw. I mean, this one's a no-brainer. The Dodgers have had an incredible offseason, and why not wrap it up by bringing back lifetime Dodger Clayton Kershaw. Now, the Dodgers do have a lot of injury risk with their pitching staff, so bringing back Kershaw at some point will be a good move. For the Giants, I have Nick Pivetta. The Giants went after Corbin Burns this offseason, but instead, they ended up with Justin Verlander. I still think, though, they could work in one more guy into this rotation, and I think Pivetta could make some sense. He's had some of the best stuff in the game for the last few years, which the Giants do like, and he has been a bit more home run prone over the last couple of years, but Oracle Park would be a good fit for that. On to the Guardians, and I have them getting Harrison Bader. Right now, they have Lane Thomas projected for center field, but I say sign Harrison Bader to give you some good defense in center after trading away Miles Straw, and then Lane Thomas can be a platoon bat with Will Brennan in right field. For the Mariners, I have Brendan Rodgers. It's been a disappointing offseason for the Mariners this year. Now, they did sign Donovan Solano to play some first base, and they brought back Jorge Polanco to play some third, but I don't think it would hurt at all to add Rodgers to compete for the second base job. On to the Marlins, and I have them landing JD Martinez. JD is coming off a so-so year, but he did mash left-handed pitching. I say bring him into the Marlins, which would be good for the young guys there, and if he is hitting well, they can move him at the deadline for a team in need of a righty bat so they can get back some prospects. For the Mets, I have Pete Alonso. Can we just get this done? He's a homegrown talent, fan favorite, and they need his power bat in the middle of the order with Juan Soto. For the Nationals, I have Yasmani Grandal. Their young catcher, Kyber Ruiz, has posted negative Fangraph wins above replacements over the last couple of years, so I think bringing in a veteran catcher like Grandal can give them a solid backup option. For the Orioles, I have John Means. The Orioles have had a weird offseason. They brought in Tyler O'Neill, and they replaced Corbin Burns with Tomoyuki Sagano and Charlie Morton. Now, I still think they could go after a top-of-the-rotation guy like Dylan Cease through a trade, but bringing back John Means, who recently had his second Tommy John surgery, will be back for 2026, so he would be good insurance for the future. For the Padres, I have Jack Flaherty. Now, I'm going to get a little funky funky here. So the Padres have been a bit tight with their payroll in the last couple of years, and they've been having some issues with their ownership since the passing of the late Peter Seidler. However, I could see a scenario where even if they move Dylan Cease and maybe even Michael King too, that could help them bring in some young talent, and it would also free up a bit more money to go ahead and sign Jack Flaherty to perhaps a short-term deal. For the Phillies, I have Kendall Graveman. Now, the Phillies have been a bit more quiet than most in free agency this year, and they've been more quiet compared to their usual self the last couple of years, but they did bring in lefty Jesus Luzardo, and they also brought in Jordan Romano for the back end of the bullpen, but I still think they could use another reliever, and since they're taking flyers on guys with recent injury history, why not Kendall Graveman too? He didn't pitch this past year in 2024 due to shoulder surgery, but he looks to be ready to go for this coming season, and he's also a ground ball pitcher, which would pair well for the Phillies' good defensive infield. On to the Pirates, and I have them getting Randall Grichuk. The Pirates really need bats, and since they don't ever want to spend money because of Bob freaking Nutting, I think Grichuk, who did mash lefties this past year, would be a good righty bat to pair with Joshua Palacios. On to the Rangers, and why not an old friend in Lance Lynn? Now, the interesting thing here is Lynn has supposedly been getting interest as a closer, which would be quite bonkers, but kind of fun at the same time. Now, the Rangers could use another arm at the back end of the bullpen, and a familiar face in Lance Lynn, I think, would be pretty cool. Now, if closing doesn't work out, he could still be a good depth option for the rotation. Moving on to the Rays, and I have them getting Craig Kimbrell. I think the Rays could bounce back this year because they're getting a lot of guys back from injury, like Shane McClanahan, and they brought in Ha-Seong Kim, and it looks like Junior Caminero is finally ready for a full season. Now, as for the bullpen, they didn't do all that great this past year, and since they've done well in the past getting pitchers back on track, why not a buy low option like Kimbrell? For the Red Sox, I have David Robertson. They still need a righty bat, but I think there's more of a chance now that comes through trade unless Bregman is up for a short-term deal. In the meantime, I think David Robertson is perfect for the back end of their bullpen. They could still use a righty back there, and with Robertson, he has experience in the setup role and in the closer role, which is good insurance for someone like Liam Hendricks, who hasn't pitched in over a year. On to the Reds, and I have them getting Kyle Finnegan. They did just trade for lefty Taylor Rogers, but since their bullpen wasn't so great last year, along with their closer Alexis Diaz having some ups and downs, I think someone with a good track record like Finnegan would be good insurance for them. For the Colorado Rockies, I have them bringing back an old friend in Adam Ottavino. The Rockies need all the pitching they can get, and Ottavino, who did spend a good chunk of his career in Colorado, knows how to have success there. I think he would give the bullpen a nice lift. On to the Royals, and I have them getting Kike Hernandez. At this point, the best role for Kike is a utility role, but with the Royals having some question marks offensively in multiple positions, I think a veteran like Kike could make some sense. On to the Tigers, and I have them landing Jose Quintana. The Tigers ran with what was called the chaos pitching staff this past year, but I think adding a veteran in Quintana could make some sense and give them a little bit more stability. He's more of a ground ball pitcher, and with the Tigers having a very good infield defensively, I think this could be a good match. On to the Twins, and yep, you guessed it, a reliever in Jalen Beeks. At this point, I'm not sure what the Twins are even willing to spend, thanks to all the issues they've been having with their TV revenue, but they could use another lefty reliever at the back end of the bullpen. Jalen Beeks, who was solid for the Pirates this past year, shouldn't cost all that much. For the White Sox, I have them getting Patrick Corbin. Finally, the terrible contract of Patrick Corbin, minus the World Series championship in 2019, is finally over. Now, the White Sox have had some success in the past with bringing in veterans, most notably Eric Fetty from the KBO last year, and even Mike Soroka as a reliever did pretty well for them. So why not roll the dice on Patrick Corbin? They could use some innings in the rotation, and if they could get him back on track this year, they could move him at the deadline, maybe get a prospect or two. And last but not least, I have the Yankees landing lefty reliever Tim Hill. The Yankees did add Devin Williams to be their closer, but they could still use a lefty back there, and Tim Hill, who they did bring in last year, pitched very well for them, including the postseason. I say roll it back. But everyone, those are my thoughts. Tell me your thoughts down below in the comments. Where do you think the remaining free agents are going to land? Which teams do you think should sign whatever free agents out there? Let me know down below in the comments. But everyone, that's all I got for right now. If you're kind of the way out, hit that like button, subscribe if you're new. We're trying to get to 50K by opening day. But with that said, I'll talk to you next time.